All right, we'll get going. Thanks for the time, Kevin. If you have a question for Kevin, please raise your hand. And while we wait that, maybe start us off with the feelings right now headed into Talladega. Obviously, you have a major race in the playoffs, but you got a nice little cushion here. So is it as stressful as it normally would be without the playoff points?
Yeah, well, look, I think anything can happen. So I think it's still definitely got that same stressful Talladega feel. I think as you go into the race, you just have to kind of do the things that you have been doing and hope for the best. So, I think we all know that this you got to be in the right place at the right time and hope that you miss the wrecks and in the end, we want to wind up in victory lane. So hopefully we can do that. Just gotta run the race to see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. All right. If you have a question, like I said, please raise your hand. Obviously, with this being a couple hours before the race, Talladega's on the table, but also the Roval and beyond. So feel free to ask questions in advance of upcoming races here. And we'll kick off with Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Kevin, obviously you've been a big proponent of schedule changes, and obviously we saw a big changes with the schedule this week. But I'm curious from a driver's perspective, with more road courses, the talk about adding maybe even an additional road course or street course in the future, and emphasis on the short track, especially with Auto Club going to a short track in the future. Does that change some of the requirements for a driver to reach this level? I mean, with more focus on road courses and short tracks, does that change a development program or how you might want to develop a driver if this schedule continues to be as move in this direction?
Well, I think first off, I'm excited to see, the changes just because, I think that the conversation that it creates, the markets that it puts us in, is something that, I think is great for our sport. I think as you look at, the development side of things, I hope they change it. I hope they keep mixing it up enough to where, you can't really pick one thing. I think that's really, what you want to see is you want it to be as diverse as possible in the racetracks that we race on. And, I think locking yourself into a particular market and I think we've seen that the Roval's a great race, but it's never going to be as great as it was the first time that were there because of the fact that, all the hype and anticipation and everything that came with that is not there after you do that one time. So, I think as you look at the dirt race, I think you might have that, with that particular race, but, then just move on to a different racetrack in a different market. I mean, there's a ton of good road courses out there, really across the world that you can race on. And, I think not locking yourself down to having to be at this particular racetrack on a given year is something that you want to be nimble, and you want to be able to kind of move away from those things that seem like a good idea and you do it one time and it was a great race and kind of leave that that want for you to come back and maybe do that again in 3 to 5 years and kind of keep that excitement around the event instead of just grinding it into the ground and thinking that it's going to be as exciting year after year. So being able to mix it up and being nimble enough, as a company to do that from the NASCAR side of things, I think is a good thing because, you look at Canada and you look at Mexico City and you look at those races that we did back in the day with the Xfinity cars, those are road courses. And the thing that's, especially Montreal, when you go up there and you look at, the amount of race fans that there are up there, there's no question. There's a lot of race fans up there and there's a lot of ovals up there that you could run on. And that's just an example of one area that we could go to. There's a lot of great places we can go, but I think locking yourself into knowing what the development needs to be, you should be good at everything. That's what the schedule needs to promote.
Thank you.
Next we'll go to Bob Pockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Kevin, considering how many playoff points you have, does the dynamic change in the third round for you? Because obviously the cushion, kind of shrinks as you go from round to round.
Look, we don't change how we race. We go and we race exactly the same every week. So, the thought process is there is no thought process because we just don't think about it. We want to try to put ourselves in position to win. score as many points as you can on the days when you're not in contention to win, and see where it all stacks up in the end. You're not going to do anything any different just because of the fact that you're going to go and race as hard as you can. We're going to bring the best car to the racetrack that we think we can build. We're going to put the best setup in it that we know how to do that. And I don't know what thinking about all that stuff really does, because wouldn't change. Nobody's going to try harder or do anything different than we're doing right now.
And are you aware of the CFD limitations for next year of 150 runs per organization per month, and how much impact that could have?
I am not. I
Okay.
do not worry about things that I have zero control over.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Couple questions. Talking about the schedule change. It came at the expense of Chicagoland and Kentucky, and you obviously wanted Chicagoland. But so we're leaving a market. What other markets would you like to see NASCAR go into that maybe they didn't, and maybe they couldn't in the future?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that happened is there's a couple things that happened there. I think when we went into the Midwest, we just had way too many racetracks that were in the same area, in my opinion. And obviously there's a whole bunch of things around the Chicagoland Speedway that are very valuable from a land standpoint. And I don't know any of this to be factored. I just look at it from what I think and from the outside looking in. And I think when you look at Kentucky, that went wrong the very first time that we went there, when everybody couldn't get in the gate. And since that day that everybody couldn't get off the highway and didn't get their tickets, they haven't come back. So I think that my point is that in the end there's a huge business decision that goes with all of these things, and in the end it's butts in the seat, and who's coming and who's watching. And I think there's a whole bunch of factors that come into play with the amount of racetracks that are in that area of the country, and the types of racetracks and the things that happen there. So for me, from a business standpoint, I think there's more to it than on that side of it than there is anything.
And talk about your son now is racing. Obviously he's going to grow into that. Is that your end game? Maybe you could see yourself down the road when you step aside, that you could get back into team ownership just to have something for Keelan, or is you not even thought that far ahead? But how cool is it to watch your own son race now?
Yeah, that's definitely not anything. Look, my thought processes are pretty simple, and it's in order to maintain control of the things that are directly surrounding me. So thinking about what that end game is on that side of it would require a lot of thought. I think for me, with Keelan, it's a situation that we're having fun with it right now, getting a foundation for racing and underneath him, and as a family, it's been fun for us to not only watch but just be able to go do something. And for me, it's been great just because it really reminds you of why you fell in love with racing and the things that happen with racing, because of the fact that I can see these kids and watch these kids and watch them learn and grow and play, and the things that they talk about, and the time they're spending with their parents. And it's a great environment to raise your kid in. So I think as far as thinking down a road of owning a race team or something along those lines is probably definitely not in the cards. Unless it's on somebody else's bill. I can tell you that Delaney and I don't want anything to do with that, from a financial standpoint. But I do like the chess match of trying to put the people in the right places and those types of things that come with that.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Have fun today, my friend.
Yep. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. And Kevin, thanks for taking the time. Hope you, Delane, and the kids are doing well.
Thank you.
Just kind of curious, I know you're really close to Marcus Smith. He's really become an innovator of sorts. I mean, kind of the leader of his generation, and trying to find things to mix it up, make it exciting for the fans. But as a guy who grew up on asphalt, are we going to be able to teach an old dog new tricks on dirt?
It's look, the bottom line here is the fact that that's what everybody's talking about, and the change in the schedule. And that's been the thing that I've preached for several years, is we have to mix it up. You have to keep it fresh and exciting. And I think that the Bristol situation is not something that I would have done. But the thing that I do like about it is the fact that it's different. It's exciting. It's not going to be like a dirt race in a dirt late model or a sprint car or anything like that. I'm still going to be sitting in my car that I sit in every week with the same parts and pieces that I have to race with every week and figure out how to go around a dirt track. It's not something that I have done a lot of, but it's as I watch Eldora and the trucks and the West cars and the things that they've done on the dirt, it's not a pitch it sideways, throw it against the cushion and hope for the best. There's a lot of finesse that goes into that. So I'm all about change. I'm all about, doing things that are different and exciting. I think as we look at Bristol, I think that's what it is it's different and exciting. And whether I like it or not doesn't even really matter, because of the fact that it's different and exciting, and it's creating a lot of conversation about our sport. And that's what I want. I want our sport to be good and healthy and exciting and something that everybody wants to watch. So whatever that takes, I'm in.
Can you talk a little bit about Marcus kind of following the tradition of going outside the box? Because I know he speaks with you. He speaks to Marshall Carlson. He has a group of insiders that he uses as sounding boards. And, it's beneficial to kind of find that balance between what teams, what drivers, what the fans are looking for.
Yeah, there's a few moments that Marcus and I talk about racing, but in the end, Marcus and I, for the most part, are friends. And we talk about more things that aren't racing than we do racing itself. Very, very rarely do we speak about things like that. We've talked about the go-kart track more than we have anything else on the schedules. And we do have those conversations, every once in a while, but for the most part, it's Marcus and I are just friends, and our families are friends, and we spend time together, and for the most part, it's fun to not have to talk about racing all the time. So, there's definitely a few of those conversations, but not as many as you would think.
Super. Thank you, and stay safe today.
Thank you.
And next we'll go to Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead, Jordan.
Kevin, in a race like today where you're already advanced the next round, how do you put your own self-interest behind maybe helping your teammate like an Eric or Clint if you're in that situation?
I wouldn't say that everything's, worked out to the point of being on to the next round. So, I think you want to put yourself in a position to, hopefully end the day and being in a good position going to the Roval. But the thing that I think everybody forgets, and I'm not saying this, trying to be selfish, but the thing that everybody forgets is, if we don't make the final four, this whole thing reverts back to points and where you finish at the end of the year. So you still want to gather every point that you can, because you just don't know the outcome of, where you're going to be or how it's going to shake out. So you have to try to get every point that you can. I want to help my teammates, but I also want to get every point that I can in every race in case, it doesn't all work out and you don't go to Phoenix and race for a championship. You want to finish as high as you can in the points for your charter and for your team and everything that comes with that.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any final questions for Kevin? Doesn't look like we do. Kevin, thanks so much for the time and good luck today.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, we'll post this video and audio up on NASCARmedia.com and be back post-race with 2 different Zoom links. The top 3 and the 8th, 9th, and 10th place driver in the playoff standings. Enjoy the race, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.